you go. Good morning.
Morning.
Call to order the June 14th, 2022 meeting of the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners. At this time, it's my pleasure to invite Chaplain Chad Elberson with the Indian River Estates West to come to the podium. He will be leading the invocation this morning. That'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Dylan Reingold, the County Attorney. And we will begin this morning with a moment of silent reflection for our first responders and members of the armed forces. Would everyone please rise?
This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. And Heavenly Father, we do thank you for our first responders and those who come to us in our moments of need when we pick up the phone and dial that number or call. And Lord, they come to us and help us. And we thank you, Lord, for their service to us. Lord, thank you for our service men and women who have served in the generations past and who are serving now to protect the peace and freedom that we so enjoy in our nation. We thank you for America. Thank you for the privilege of living in this wonderful country. And Lord, we thank you for Indian River County. What a privilege to live in Indian River County. Thank you for our Board of County Commissioners, for the service that they have, Lord, and Lord, also the tremendous responsibility that they must carry upon their shoulders. Lord, I ask that you bless them as they lead us and guide us. Father, give them wisdom. And Lord, when they have those long days, give them extra rest, Father, and energy during those times that they need it. Father, we thank you for them. Thank you for their service here in our county. Thank you for Indian River County. And Lord, we ask this day that you would continue to bless it. Thank you for the beauty of it, for health and strength to enjoy it. We give you thanks and praise in the almighty and precious name of Jesus, so we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
to America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you, Chaplain. Appreciate it. All right. Commissioners, a couple things for changes to the agenda. We have a request from staff to move item 8G from consent to 11B, County Administrator's Matters. That's regarding the auto allowance adjustment. And then, Commissioners, apparently Commissioner Moss is still unable to attend. I do not have any issue continuing with her to vote by Zoom, although I think from a procedural point of view, I would like to add it to the agenda. Just when we voted last week, there wasn't any kind of timeline, kind of more like for that particular meeting. And so I think just procedurally, I'd just rather have it on the agenda again. And potentially, maybe Commissioner Moss could give us a little idea of how much longer she might be out, and then we could make it effective through June or whatever the case might be. But so with your concurrence, we'll move 8G to 11B and add discussion on Commissioner Moss and voting by Zoom. Are there any other additions, deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, move approval.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Flesher, second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries by a 4-0 vote with Commissioner Moss absent. So, Commissioners, we'll take up Commissioner Moss' item. Again, as I said, I have no issue with having her vote, but Commissioner Moss, do you have any indication if you'll be back for the June 21st meeting, or any idea what your timeline might be?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I expect to be with you at the next meeting. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. So then, Commissioners, I think we just need a motion for today's meeting to allow Commissioner Moss to vote by Zoom, and I heard a motion by Commissioner Flesher. I'll go ahead and second that motion. All in favor signify with aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 4-0, and by that action, Commissioner Moss will now be voting on agenda items. That now takes us to the presentation, and we have a proclamation establishing June 16th, 2022 as National Dump the Pump Day. And Vice Chair Ehrman will be presenting this, and we have Karen Deagle with the Senior Resource Association here. If you want to bring up anybody else, Karen, bring them on up.
Thank you. Chris Stevenson, my Transportation Director, and Emily Snow, who is the Director of Business Development.
Good. Well, we'll have Vice Chair Ehrman present this proclamation, then you can tell us a few things that you're doing for the day.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my privilege, my honor to read this proclamation for our county transportation system here in our great county. And I know we've all heard the praises of how well they do, but it's true. They do. They're the lowest cost in the state. They do such a great job with everything. Very few complaints, very few issues. It's a very well-run machine, and Karen, you and your staff are to be credited with that.
Thank you.
And we definitely appreciate it. It's just a very, very good organization, very well run. As chairman of the Transportation Disadvantage, we see those statistics, as y'all well know, and they're always just glowing every time. And so we're very happy about that. And again, thank you. With that, I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation about National Dump the Pump Day. Proclamation establishing June 16, 2022 as National Dump the Pump Day. Whereas the third Thursday in June each year marks the annual National Dump the Pump Day, which is a day that encourages people to ride public transportation to save money, revitalize communities, protect the environment, reduce our dependence on foreign oil, and improve the quality of life for all Americans. And whereas, according to the American Public Transportation Association's Transit Saving Report, a two-person household can save an average $10,000 a year by downsizing to one car. Public transportation provides an affordable and, for many, necessary alternative to driving. And whereas public transportation use reduces our nation's dependence on foreign oil by 6 billion gallons of gasoline a year, and it also saves 63 million metric tons of carbon emissions annually, over 45% of Americans have no access to public transportation. On average, Senior Resource Association, GO Line Indian River County Transit provides over 1.8 million trips annually. And whereas in 2020, GO Line Indian River County Transit was awarded the Gold Star Safety Award from the Florida Public Transportation Association, nationally, traveling by public transportation is 10 times safer per mile than traveling by automobile. A person can reduce his or her chance of being in an accident by more than 90% simply by taking public transit as opposed to commuting by car. And whereas public transportation provides economic opportunities, every $1 invested in public transportation generates $5 in economic returns. 87% of trips on public transit have direct impact on the local economy. Public transportation's overall effects save the United States 6 billion gallons of gasoline annually. A single commuter switching his or her commute to public transportation can reduce household carbon emissions by 10% and up to 30% if he or she eliminates a second car. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that June 16, 2022 is National Dump the Pump Day, and that Senior Resource Association's GO Line Indian River Transit System will join with public transportation agencies across the nation and participate in the annual National Dump the Pump Day to encourage transit ridership on June 16, 2022, adopted this 14th day of June 2022 and signed by all 5 county commissioners.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think dump the pump is kind of more important today than ever before with the prices of gas. I could go on for a long time speaking, as you probably all know, so to save you from me, we have prepared a video, short video to watch. This video is what we use for training, travel training, individuals, so if we could play the video, that would be appreciated.
To ride with buses that run 7 days a week on 14 fixed routes with over 500 bus stops throughout Indian River County, Vero Beach, Sebastian, Fellsmere, and the Indian River State College main campus. GoLine has routes and frequent stops within a quarter mile of the most popularly visited destinations. Visit our main transit hub in Central Vero Beach on 16th Street. You can check the maps here or on your phone. Open your Maps app. Type in your desired destination and tap the bus icon. Different route options will drop down. This will map out the time to walk to the bus stop, the bus number, transfers, and time of arrival. You can also check the routes on our website or pick up a printed map. Our main hub has many conveniences such as parking, bathrooms, and a bike pump repair station. To use our bike racks, let the driver know you are loading your bike before placing your bike on the rack, and be sure to remind the driver before removing upon departure. All of our buses are ADA certified, wheelchair accessible with handicapped ramps. If you are boarding the bus with a stroller, the stroller must be collapsed. Drivers do not help with bikes, wheelchairs, or strollers, but our drivers are always there to answer your questions and enjoy working for a growing transit organization through Senior Resource Association. There are many features on GoLine that make our buses safe and accessible. GoLine IRC Transit received the 2020 Gold Star Safety Award from the Florida Public Transportation Association. All passengers must be able to board, disembark, and carry their own packages on and off the bus. Food or drink containers and smoking are not permitted on the bus. Shirt and shoes are required at all times. Animals are not permitted on the bus unless the animal is caged. Service animals are the only exception to this rule. Creating any disturbances or destruction of GoLine property is also not permitted. All GoLine bus stops are marked with signs. Some also have benches and shelters. Riders under the age of 12 must be accompanied by an adult. Always arrive at least 15 minutes early for your bus. When the bus arrives, check to make sure it's the correct bus for your route. Keep children away from the curb and wait until the bus has completely stopped and the door has opened before boarding. Find a seat and enjoy the ride. If there are no seats available, look for handlebars or grab loops to hold on to while standing. Be sure to look for landmarks along your journey. Once you see your stop ahead or hear it on the speaker, pull the cord next to the windows. This will notify the driver. Buses do not stop at every stop unless the stop is requested. If there is no one waiting at that stop, the bus driver will keep on driving. There's no fare to ride the GoLine, but donations help make it possible to get you there. GoLine buses operate weekdays from 6 a.m. through 7 p.m. In addition, Saturday service is offered from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. The GoLine system does not operate Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's Day. On other holidays, GoLine routes follow the regular schedule. Are you interested in a more in-depth walkthrough of how to travel with GoLine? Or do you have questions or comments? Call us at 772-569-0903 or visit GoLineIRT.com.
Thank you for choosing GoLine. At SRA, we believe that transportation should never be a barrier to your quality of life. If you need transportation, we encourage you to allow GoLine to be your solution to getting you there.
So on June 16th, this Thursday, we are having Dump the Pump. We've invited all of you, in fact, and anyone in the community who would like to learn or experience riding the bus. We have 2 different times we've chosen for Vero Beach and one in Sebastian, and we're going to meet at the transit station on 17th Street, the transit hub. Have a little presentation, and then we ask you to, if you want to ride, to get on the bus, and it'll take about an hour. Obviously, our system is built on a spoke and wheel system, which means the route starts at point A, takes half an hour to get to point B, and then returns another half hour from B to A. And that way, at the different end points, persons can transfer, and that's how we can get individuals anywhere, say, from Fellsmere all the way down to even to the State College in St. Lucie County. So we're very proud of the system. A few fun facts. You know that we're doing almost 1.2 million trips a year. That's a person getting on the bus, getting off the bus. It is no fare, continues to be no fare, and I believe we're only 2 in the state of Florida. There is one other now. And we're having a lot of discussions. There's a lot of transit systems that are looking at the best practice of no fare for individuals. 88% of our county residents live within a quarter mile of one of our bus stops, and we have 514 bus stops in Indian River County. So 55% of our riders actually use the transit system for shopping, and that's why we're giving out for Dump the Pump the shopping bags. In fact, on that day, we are going to be giving some of our riders a shopping bag as well. So please enjoy the item that we've been giving, and everyone here too. And if you haven't received one, please let us know. 25% of the others that are riding actually are riding to work as well. So we are really doing a great job with providing transportation to the community. We continue to grow, and we do have our transportation development plan coming up this year, and I really hope to look at what we can do to expand our services in this community. So thank you very much for your proclamation and your support. And I almost forgot to mention, we could not do this without the staff, the drivers, our customer care agents, the people on the ground. They have done such an amazing job and continue to do an amazing job, especially through the COVID the last couple years, managing all of the safety procedures that we've had to put in place to keep themselves safe, but also, most importantly, our riders safe as well. So always want to mention how important it is to how much I appreciate our staff. So thank you.
Well, Karen, awesome job. Just, are you seeing any uptick in ridership in the last 6 months or so as gas has been creeping up, or is it still rather steady?
It's pretty steady. In fact, we are back to, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so it's steady, but we are on pace to have our highest ridership year to date.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Well, great job, Commissioner Fletcher.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Driving a vehicle is sometimes in long distances or long hours can be fatiguing, and sometimes it may irritate the driver. I just want to say that I do take some unannounced rides.
Good.
And I want you to know, I want to take this time to say that my personal experience has been nothing but positive. The drivers are courteous, polite, informative, and no, they may not know who I am, so they're not trying to buy into the system, especially with the sunglasses and hat. But with that, I have to say that it's been a great experience. I've noticed a little difference in ridership. Some days I wish it was more because you are burning the fuel. And I think that if individuals take that one ride, they'll realize how convenient it is and how efficient it is, and more importantly is less burdensome, and we leave the fatigue to the driver as opposed to the individual getting somewhere. So I just want to say that the system is awesome, and it's free.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, come on up.
Okay.
Get a picture.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So y'all scoot to your left a few steps.
Cameo award or whatever.
Right. That looks good there. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioners, there's no minutes under information. We do have one retirement. Kenneth Houston with the Department of Utility Services Customer Service Division is retiring with 19 years of service. So, Kenny, we appreciate your service to the community. And that takes us to the consent agenda. Commissioners, does anybody wish to pull an item for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I wish to pull 8K, as in Kim.
Okay, we have 8K by Commissioner Moss. I'd like to pull item 8J. And is there anyone else? Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to have a consent agenda item pulled for additional discussion? Okay, seeing
I
none.
move approval as amended.
We have a motion by Commissioner Flesher, second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor signify with aye. Any opposed? That carries 5-0 with Commissioner Moss now voting. And Commissioner Moss will go ahead and take your item 8K, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And this item has to do with work order for Kimley Horn with regard to evaluating wells and also identifying new sources of water within the county to meet future needs. As my colleagues may recall, last year we talked about this with regard to the USGS, that's the United States Geological Survey. And the consensus of the board at that time was that we would hold off and wait for the St. Johns River Water Management District reports to be finalized and presented, which they recently were. I'm not looking at this time, of course, to get into any kind of discussion of this. I'm just explaining my own thinking on this, which is that, USGS is an excellent source of this kind of information and would be a good partner in this endeavor. And that's all I wish to say. I would prefer that we go that route. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner Moss. This is an action that needs a vote. Is there a motion to approve the work order?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Ehrman, second by Commissioner Adams. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed?
We are going to get
I'm opposed.
rolling with our second day of MArch thesis reviews. We have 3 jurors this morning,
What do
and
we
they'll
got?
introduce themselves, and then we'll kick it off for the first thesis presentation. Robert, can I give it to you to
We're
introduce?
getting some overlap feed here or
Good
something.
morning, everybody. My name is Robert Grooms, former student here,
Can we-
graduated in 2018. I currently
Apologize for the technology glitch.
firm GTM Marketing.
Apparently, we were getting some overlap on another broadcast, but
My first thesis review.
the motion for item 8K is approved 4-1 with Commissioner Moss opposed. Item 8J is the FDOT regional grant for the widening and paving of 66th Avenue from 69th Street to County Road 510 and 85th Street. In the staff report, staff has an estimated cost of a little over, just under about $16 million. And I'd just like to point out, Commissioners, that does not include the right-of-way. That's strictly the construction costs, and you all know that right-of-way has been one of my pet peeves, and I won't be here when you all are working on buying the right-of-way for this next phase. I would just, again, urge you to do everything you can to keep the cost down, and just to be mindful that we do have Murphy deeds out there, and that I think our policy has been to try to give the homeowner as much money as we can and not go to outside expert witnesses and stuff. So I wish you all good luck.
Commissioner Fletcher is telling us that we can't call him?
Well, we can still call it the O'Brien rule, but
We'll get out O'Brien.
Yeah, well,
I think you
all I can
might
say
have a
is
limitation, or you might be traveling across this great nation.
that's very likely. So anyway, I just want to convey my thoughts and concerns on that. And with that, if there's a motion to approve item 8J, I'll be glad to second it. We have a motion by Commissioner Adams, second by myself. All in favor signify with aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. That takes care of consent. There's no constitutional items. The only thing under public hearings is a public notice. So, Mr. Reingold, would you do the honors, please?
Thank you very much. We have a notice of a public hearing. It is scheduled for June 21st. That'll be for consideration of the disposition of county-owned surplus properties for affordable housing. Again, that'll be a public hearing for next Tuesday on June 21st. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you, Dylan. Moving to county administrator matters, item 11A, executive session to discuss Teamsters negotiations. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The staff is requesting an executive session immediately following this meeting, as allowed under Florida Statute Section 447.605. The topic will be negotiations with the Teamsters Collective Bargaining Unit, which represents the county's blue-collar workers for contract beginning next year. This meeting will be held today at the conclusion, immediately following the conclusion of this meeting, and the meeting is exempt from open meetings per Florida Statute 286.011. The discussions will be limited to matters related to the negotiations. Members of the collective bargaining committee that will be present at the session include Suzanne Boyle, our Human Resources Director, Michael Zito, Assistant County Administrator, Kristen Daniels, Budget Director, and myself, as well as the County Commissioners. So that is just an announcement for the meeting.
Thank you, Jason.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Fleischer?
Just for housekeeping, that shade meeting will be happening upstairs at the end of the meeting.
In the conference room upstairs, yes.
And Commissioner Moss, who's currently on Zoom, will be in attendance via telephone.
Commissioner Moss is allowed to participate via telephonically or electronically, yes.
Just wanted to clarify.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, good point.
Very good. And then, Commissioners, we moved item 8G to 11B. So, again, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This item is regarding the auto allowance that is provided for various county employees. The auto allowance is provided as part of our compensation for folks who drive as part of their duties throughout the county. A number of years ago, back in about 2012, during the economic downturn, the prior auto allowance amount was reduced significantly. It used to be about $4,200 a year. That was cut down to $2,600 for most county employees. I will note that the board had voluntarily cut their amount in half to $2,100. Back then, I will say that gas was going for about $1.80 a gallon. Today, as we're approaching $5 a gallon, it seems that the current rate was, while it was noble at the time to reduce those during a lower cost driving environment and a downturn in the economy, I think it's appropriate to increase that auto allowance back up to the same amount for all employees. I think we should be consistent for that. With that across the board, which would be $4,200 annually, is staff's recommendation, with the exception that the chair would continue to receive the extra $50 a month per as allowed in statute. The total cost of this for countywide is about $38,000 from the current practice. So with that, staff recommends that the board approve, effective for the pay period beginning June 17th, an increase in the auto allowance back to $4,200. With that, I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Jason. Commissioners, any questions of staff? Hearing none. Is there a motion?
I'll move. move staff approval.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Ehrman, second by Commissioner Adams. Any discussion on the motion? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to comment on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed? Aye. That motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Flesher opposed. And moving, there's no departmental matters. We move to the county attorney matters. First item is authorization to proceed with foreclosure on code enforcement cases 2016-080073, 99th Street, Almanza, Elias, and Angel, and 2017-12011, 89th Street, Pablo Almanez. And I think, Susan, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yes, this morning we are here on both of the Almanza properties. However, I do have an update. I have been in touch with the code enforcement officer who's assigned to this area, Ms. Driscoll, and she's here as well this morning in case we have any questions. That property on the 99th Street has been brought into compliance. It was there for some junk, trash, and debris, so it looks like that property has been cleaned up. And at this point in time, we are not asking to move forward with foreclosure since it is in compliance and the fine has been set. Now, as to that property, it's incumbent on then to the property owners to come in front of the code enforcement board if they would like a lien reduction at that point. But as far as for this board, I think we are set on that one. So I would like to move forward with the other property, which the owners are here, the 89th, I believe it's 89th Street, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to put it on a PowerPoint. It's just a little easier for you all to get an idea of what's going on the cases. And I'm sorry, I have never used this clicker before, so. Oh, okay, thank you. This is 12865 89th Street, Fellsmere, Florida. The history of the case. This came into code enforcement back in 2017 regarding junk, trash, and debris and junk vehicles, storage of in a storage structure without a required building permit. There was an evidentiary hearing back in 2018, at which time they were found to be in violation. The respondents were given a time to correct and one continuance. At the compliance hearing on June 20, 2018, the Code Enforcement Board determined that they were in violation and had not corrected the violations on the property and started a fine of $100 per day. That order is recorded at OR Book 3126, page 2329. The property at the time of the violation was owned by Elias Almanza and was subsequently transferred to Pablo Almanza on September 17, 2020. Even though the property is transferred, our lien runs with the land, so it's still valid on that property. The property continued out of compliance, and from my understanding, I believe Elias and Pablo are siblings, so it looks like it just transferred from one brother to another. We can go on to the next slide. And these are just a couple of aerials to give an idea of kind of what it's looked like over the time period. The trees kind of give it a little bit of cover, but you can see up sort of on the right-hand corner there's some stuff under the trees that has accumulated. You can go on. And this is just to show there was an issue brought up when we brought this in front of Code Enforcement Board as to whether or not that structure there was, the owners had a question if it was grandfathered in or how long it had been there. We've gone down that path. It's not a structure that can be grandfathered in. It has to have a building permit. And this is just to show that on February 2007, that structure was not there. So it would need a building permit to be brought into compliance. And at this time, I believe most of it has been cleaned up, and I think it's just the structure, but I'll ask that of Ms. Daphne Driscoll if she could just let us know where it's at as of today.
Okay.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning. Welcome.
It has been cleaned up, all except what's under the shed. So if the shed is not permitted, it's not valid to be under the shed, is all the junk, trash, and debris. So it's still stored there because I spoke with them and they was gonna try to get a permit for the structure. I don't know if they moved forward into doing that.
Okay, so from code point of view, they need to either get a after-the-fact permit for the shed, or if failing that, they would have to take the shed down and remove all the stuff stored underneath it.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then I believe these owners were before us several weeks ago on 2 other properties.
Yes.
What, do you know the status of those 2 original
Those properties has been cleaned. They're cleaning, in process of cleaning, one of the properties now, still.
Okay, but we're moving forward on the foreclosure on those 2. And I know that we were very clear with the owners at the last time they were before us that they had roughly 30 days to complete all that. So we're still on a ticking clock, is that correct?
Yes, and so with those 2, it came to our attention that one of them, I believe it's 305 South Lime Street, was actually annexed into the city of Fellsmere, I believe in 2020, subsequent to our lien being placed. So while our lien are still valid, there came into some question of our ability to then go ahead and say whether it's in compliance or not, because they're technically not in our jurisdiction anymore. Now they would fall under the city of Fellsmere's jurisdiction and their code enforcement board. So that fine had been stopped as of the date it was annexed in. We went back and fixed that. So now it's the property owners, if they want to have that reduced, they need to come back in front of the code enforcement board and deal with that. But that is now a city of Fellsmere code enforcement issue. And I don't know that we want to own that property. So that was a question I had for the board today, is if you are still wanting to move forward with foreclosure on something, even though it's now in the city of Fellsmere and it's now their code enforcement process. But the other property that was brought, not the 305, but the other one, I believe it was also an 89th Street property. The outside counsel actually just sent me a draft of the petition for the foreclosure yesterday. I reviewed it and said it looked great and sent it back, so that should be getting filed shortly.
Okay. Just to that question, whether I personally don't think we want to own the homes. I think our goal always has been with code enforcement to achieve compliance, and that the foreclosure process is a tool to try to get there. So for the one, just my opinion, Commissioners, and Commissioner Adams, obviously, this is in your backyard here. I think for right now, I'd like to put a hold on that one as far as our action and let the Fellsmere Code Enforcement see what they can do to get it done. And then if they're having an issue and would like to reach out to us, we can maybe revisit that one. But I'd like to let Fellsmere have a shot at getting that one taken care of. Commissioners, any comments on that or thoughts?
No, I'm fine with that. I think getting involved in cross-jurisdictional just makes it much more difficult. I guess my only question, and I think you just went over it, but just to clarify again, we still have a lien on that property that's been annexed in?
Correct.
So the property owner would need to come to our code enforcement board to ask to clear that up in some manner?
Yes, they would.
Okay. I have no problem with that, and I just want to say I appreciate that you guys have taken the time to clean up the properties that you have. I know it was a lot to have to do. There was a lot there, but it does look much, much better, and I know that was quite an effort on your part, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. We'll keep it clean.
So, Mr. Almanza, am I, okay. Good to see you again. As Commissioner Adams said, it sounds like you are making a very good effort to get these in compliance, and we do appreciate that. So from what I'm hearing here today, you have one issue left on 89th Street, the shed, and need to either get a after-the-fact permit from the Community Development Building Department right down the hallway here, or failing that, the shed will have to be removed and things removed from that. Okay, are you clear on that? Okay. And then the other one, the 99th Street, is you've cleaned that up, and so we're pulling that one off. Is that correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So, and then the two earlier ones, one is annexed into Fellsmere, so we're going to back off on that. But you still have that other original one, and we need to make sure that one is in compliance as well.
Correct.
Okay. So, Mr. Almanza, I think what I would recommend the board do is what we did several weeks ago, is give staff the authority to start moving forward with the foreclosure. on the 89th Street. So again, that gives you, it kind of gives you like a 30-day window to get that permit and get it all taken care of. Are you clear with that? Okay, very good. So commissioners, for this item, that's what I would recommend, is that we authorize staff to proceed. But I think Mr. Almanza is very clear what he needs to do, and hopefully he'll have this cleaned up and compliant before we actually have to move forward with foreclosure, and that we do not take action on the one property that was annexed into the city of Fellsmere.
Works for me.
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, once again, this will still be looming over, and we will continue, and we can anticipate this being on the very next agenda for complete resolution.
I don't think it would come back June
Do we need it
21st. It would
back?
probably come back within 30 days or so, sometime in July.
So are you asking for it to come back in front of the board? Because my understanding was we were just coming here to get direction to move forward. And then if they cleaned it up, then we would just not have the foreclosure file, take it back in front of code enforcement board. Whereas if, you're giving us the authority to move forward with the action today, if they don't clean it up, then the foreclosure just gets filed. I didn't think it came back in front of the board unless the board doesn't want to give authorization today.
Right. So my thought is we just give you authorization to proceed with foreclosure.
Okay.
And we'll be happy to provide an update to the board. Just, we can send you an email or a memo just saying, here's where we are, so that you guys are at least in the loop as to where we are with these projects.
Yeah, I just would like to know where we've gotten. It sounds like you're very committed, and you've done a lot of work, but there is some concern yet with that shed, so.
Please just follow through on that. Our goal is not, like Commissioner Ryan said, our goal is compliance. It's not to go through the full foreclosure process, but we have to keep marching down. But it's incumbent upon you guys to take care of this in the next 30 days.
Yes,
But you've done great, and I'm very happy at where you are right now. Thank you for that.
thank you, and I'm sorry for that inconvenience.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion by Vice Chair Ehrman, second by Commissioner Adams. And again, just for clarity, this is to give staff authorization to proceed with foreclosure on the 89th Street property, and that we will put in abeyance any action on the property annexed into the city of Fellsmere.
Thank you.
Everybody good and clear? All right, does anyone from the public wishes to comment on the motion? And Mr. Almanzo, you're both very clear on what we're, okay, very good. All right, all those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll look forward to hearing good news.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next county attorney items is the City of Vero Beach appeal of Tourist Development Council, May 11th, 2022. Action to exclude City of Vero Beach proposal from consideration for tourist development tax dollars. Mr. Reingold.
Thank you very much. Good morning. So on Tuesday last week, after our board meeting, we received a 4-page memo which was described as an appeal of the Tourist Development Council decision. First off, in reviewing this, I just didn't see how there was really jurisdiction for this appeal. I know the mayor asked at the City of Vero Beach City Council meeting, specifically said, is this the procedure in place at county for appeal to happen? And the answer to that is really no. Pursuant to section 100.06 of our code, there is an ability to appeal a final decision of a board or commission to the Board of County Commissioners within 20 working days of the final decision, and then the Board of County Commissioners shall respond within 20 working days of that appeal. The issue here is it really wasn't a final decision of TDC. It was simply a recommendation on what were the funding amounts and who were going to be awarded funds, and recommending that to the full Board of County Commissioners. And I think that's pretty clear because that recommendation was then presented to the Board of County Commissioners as a recommendation at the board's June 7th meeting, in which the Board of County Commissioners then made its final decision as to the amounts that it was going to approve with regards to all the agency partners that we have for tourist development. City of Vero Beach representative was actually at the TDC meeting. I believe it was on May 11th. Also, there was, in addition to the representative on TDC, there was actually the assistant city attorney was present as well. Neither of them said anything about the issue. And then when the board conducted its meeting on June 7th, we had lots of tourist development agencies and other folks who had applied who were present. In fact, the Cultural Council got up and provided some information as to their request. And no one from the city of Vero Beach was present or at least got up to speak with regards to the issue. I highlight those because that's really how you do the process of dealing with this type of recommendation. You show up at the recommendation body, you make your case. If you're not happy there, you continue to show up at the Board of County Commissioners meeting and you present your case. But filing an appeal under 100.06 just isn't the right procedure for that. That's how you present the case. And I really feel this procedure is almost kind of like circumventing that process, whereby which folks showed up for the TDC meeting, showed up for the Board of County Commissioners meeting, and then the city of Vero Beach was looking for this meeting today to kind of be a second bite of the apple after everyone else had had their opportunity to speak and present their case. So I will go into a little bit, however, despite the fact that I just don't think there's jurisdiction, I'll at least cover some of the issues of the merits, just to be transparent on this issue in terms of what was referenced in the memo. So there were several references to section 125.0104 in the memo, specifically subsection 5C, I believe, was referenced as an example of where the Board of County Commissioners should provide funding for the uses that the city of Vero Beach wanted to fund. Specifically, 5C states a county located adjacent to the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean, and Indian River County is definitely located next to the Atlantic Ocean, which meets the following criteria, may use 10% of its tax revenue received pursuant to this section to reimburse expenses for lots of different issues. But in subsection C, it says to receive reimbursement, the county must generate a minimum of $10 million in annual proceeds from any tax or any combination of taxes authorized to be levied pursuant to this section. So if there are taxes authorized to be levied pursuant to the tourist development section of Florida statutes and it exceeds $10 million, those listed uses are allowed to be spent on. Additionally, the city cited in their memo was House Bill 7087. I believe this was from 2018. And similarly, they cited to the ability to acquire, construct, extend, enlarge, remodel, repair, improve, maintain, operate, or finance public facilities within boundaries of a county or sub-county special taxing district in which the tax is levied. And then it goes on to a litany of other things. But it says in that section, tax revenues may be used for these purposes only if the following conditions are satisfied. And A is in the county fiscal year immediately preceding the fiscal year in which the tax revenues were initially used for such purposes, at least, again, the magic number, $10 million in tourist development tax revenue was received. So both of the sections cited in the City of Vero Beach memo were in 125.0104 that they believed were adequate or appropriate ways to use money for the application they submitted. And both of those sections actually apply to counties that receive more than $10 million in tax or in tourist development taxes. So I reached out to our office our budget office and actually was trying to figure out, well, how much do we get per year? And I believe it's roughly $3.6 million. So we're nowhere near the amount of money needed for those two subsections of 125.0104 to be eligible for spending pursuant to those subsections. So I just don't believe those sections are applicable and we are not eligible under those sections. So continuing on into the memo, the City of Vero Beach cites to Ordinance 87-11, and it talks about, we should fund pursuant to that. I will note that that ordinance adopted many years ago specifically set forth a 2-year funding policy that was going to be for fiscal years 1987, 1988, and then 1988 and 1989. And then from there, basically, it's going to be that the Tourist Development Council is going to approve and recommend projects going forward. That's over 30 years ago. That is not our tourist development plan today. And so I disagree with the City of Vero Beach's policy or position on 8711 being some sort of mandate that the Indian River County Board of County Commissioners has to spend $450,000 for City of Vero Beach lifeguard facilities. Another allegation in the memo was that there was a new policy that was adopted by the Board of County Commissioners. The argument essentially is City of Vero Beach submitted its application, and then the Board of County Commissioners yanked out the ability for City of Vero Beach to seek the funding. That was not a new policy. I believe in the minutes that were attached to that policy, or that item that was brought to the Board of County Commissioners, was that was actually a policy begun discussion in, I think it was 2018, and then finally more solidified in March of 2019, and has simply been followed since 2019. The concept from the budget office was they were just codifying the practice that was ongoing with regards to applications. So I would like to note, however, that I believe there's an allegation from the city in their memo, or at least it was stated, that we would not accept their application. I don't believe that's correct. It was what happened. My understanding from the budget office is that we actually did take in the application. It's not like they came in and we said, I'm sorry, we can't take your application. You're going to have to leave with your application. I believe what happened is they took the application. That application was actually provided in the agenda packet for TDC, provided to the TDC members, and it was actually an item identified within the packet. So we actually did take in the application. We identified that it was ineligible relative to the policy, but certainly it was something that was provided information to the TDC members. So that's sort of my issue on some of the merit items within the item. I will state I was actually a little surprised when I received this memo on Tuesday last week. So I had an email exchange with the City of Vero Beach City Attorney's Office. Simply, Allison had provided the email to me and Jason, and I appreciated that. Good afternoon, she stated. Please see the attached. I've been directed to provide to you a copy of an appeal from the City Council of the City of Vero Beach, which has been submitted to the BCC's clerk. Additionally, copies have been provided to each commission member separately via email. Thank you. I responded to that email by saying, Allison, I will review your submittal, but can you please let me know when the City Council authorized this submittal? I do not recall seeing it on a City Council agenda. Thanks, Dylan. The response from Allison was, thank you, Dylan. City Council authorized this submittal at today's meeting. Regards, Allison. My response, thanks for letting me know. What item on the agenda was it? Response from the city, it was a city attorney item. And my final response was, oh, I didn't see anything under city attorney's matters. I've got a copy of that agenda, which makes it very clear that city attorney's matters was blank. There is no item on there about this issue. Now, I watched the video and I listened to the additions and deletions portion of the meeting, hoping that I would get some insight on this issue. And the city attorney's office, or the city attorney at the meeting said, I'm going to have 2 items under a city attorney's matters briefings and direction. That was it. So no mention at all, either in the agenda or in the additions and deletions portion, that the TDC's decision from May was going to be on the City Council agenda. Now, I will admit, this is not technically a sunshine law violation, but I will read what I found was very important guidance from the Attorney General's office about this practice. So based on these considerations, it is my opinion that the city of Treasure Island, and I'm sorry, I'm quoting from the Attorney General, is not prohibited by the government in the Sunshine Law from following its procedural policy allowing the addition of topics to the agenda at a regularly noticed meeting of the council and taking formal action on any matter added to the agenda of such a meeting. However, formal action on controversial matters coming before the board at a meeting where the public has not been given notice that such an issue will be discussed. The purpose of the notice requirement of the Sunshine Law is to apprise the public of the pendency of matters that might affect their rights, afford them the opportunity to appear and present their views, and afford them a reasonable time to make an appearance if they wished. In the spirit of the Sunshine Law, the City Commission should be sensitive to the community's concerns that it be allowed advance notice and therefore meaningful participation on controversial issues coming before the Commission. And I'm sorry, but I left out a section when I was reading between the lines. It said that, however, this office would strongly recommend that the City Council postpone formal action on controversial matters coming before the board at a meeting where the public had not been given advance notice. So, I admit it's not technically illegal, but clearly, as the Attorney General has said, bad practice. So I will note that the city attorneys, and I admit there are times that there are emergency items that come before boards. Something may happen yesterday that we feel we need to get before the Board of County Commissioners. But I will tell you that the city attorney stated at the meeting on June 7th that he had been able to have time to provide an advanced copy of the 4-page memo to his city council. I will note that the city manager had actually said that he had had time to reach out to one of the city managers within Indian River County to get their support in this item. And simply, they could have had at least a brief memo or at least notice on their agenda indicating what was going to be talked about. So I pulled up the August 17, 2021 City of Vero Beach agenda, and on there was under City Attorney Matters, update on Chapter 164 meeting. Nothing attached, that's fine. But at least everybody knows you're going to talk about that at the meeting. Now, we can have an honest policy decision or a policy discussion and debate about the proper and best uses for the tourist development money and how much maybe that should be spent or provided to each of our agency partners individually and per year. But I was a little annoyed when the city attorney's office decided to mock the county at their meeting last week, saying, and I quote, "I guess they think that what we have out there on the Atlantic Ocean, all that white stuff that gets between your toes and on your blankets and everything, doesn't attract tourism." I think it's pretty easy to make remarks like that when you know that nobody at the county has any idea that your item was on the agenda or even added to the agenda. So let's have that policy discussion. So, that white stuff between your toes and on your blankets at the City of Vero Beach beaches, that's not from the City of Vero Beach. That's from actually upland mines from St. Lucie County. And Indian River County actually spent tourist development taxes and other funds to actually put that sand on city beaches. So clearly the Indian River County understands that that white stuff between the toes is actually appropriate for tourist development dollars. And the information I have from our Public Works Department is that for Sector 5, which is the City of Vero Beach, that we've spent so far over $7 million on putting that white stuff between your toes next to the Atlantic Ocean. And in fact, we're continuing to do work. We're monitoring, we're doing surveys. We acknowledge that the sand on the beach is a critical component of bringing tourists to Indian River County. But what's interesting is that not only do the beaches in City of Vero Beach bring tourists to the City of Vero Beach, but actually Indian River County's beaches bring tourists to the City of Vero Beach. And I'll let you know, I, for instance, found this vacation idea article, so top 25 best things to do in Vero Beach, Florida. Number 1, And to the city of Vero Beach's point on sand bringing people here, beaches in Vero Beach, Florida, #1 on the top 25 list of vacation ideas for tourists coming to Vero Beach. And this is what the article says. Vero Beach is where you can relax and enjoy plenty of beach access in several full-service parks. Wabasso Beach Park has wide, quiet beaches and is perfect for swimming. So those tourists in Vero Beach have actually been told, come to a county park outside the city of Vero Beach. Golden Sands Beach Park is traditional with lifeguards and a picnic area. It has dressing facilities, restrooms, and showers. It's a good place to snorkel or to scuba dive. Golden Sands Beach Park, not located in the city of Vero Beach. So the first 2 beaches mentioned in this Vacation Ideas article is actually beaches that are outside the city of Vero Beach. Article goes on to talk about JC Park and lastly Hummus Beach Park. So yes, we agree. City of Vero Beach parks attract tourists. Indian River County beach parks attract tourists. In fact, you could argue that both of them attract tourists specifically to the city of Vero Beach. I also went on TripAdvisor just this weekend, and sure enough, punch in Vero Beach. What's the top beach on TripAdvisor? Round Island Beach Park, not in the city of Vero Beach. Now, there are other beaches on there that are in the city of Vero Beach that are listed. My point is that Vero Beach parks and Indian River County beach parks are both attracting visitors. And you know what I would say is that I think those beaches should then be treated similarly, because we spend tourist development dollars to support the sand on city beaches and the sand renourishment also on county beaches. But you know, we don't use tourist development dollars on the other improvements that happen at county beach parks. So when we do like a $98,000 park improvement at one of our beach parks, we don't use tourist development dollars for that. So I'm not asking for anything from the board today. I've stated in my memo, I don't think you have jurisdiction. I simply wanted to make sure that I was being transparent and public about the response that I plan to provide to the city, which will simply be, please be aware there's no jurisdiction for your appeal. But please know, the city attorney has basically hinted at a potential lawsuit, saying it at the last city council meeting. The appeal was in order to protect their interests in their ability to proceed with further actions. I believe we have a court reporter that the city of Vero Beach has decided to bring here today. The signal is on. They plan to file litigation with regards to this. I believe that hiding stuff from the public, and I believe that mocking the county, and I believe that threatening the Board of County Commissioners in Indian River County with litigation is just misguided. I really think if the city of Vero Beach wants their parks to be treated better or have a better level of service, they simply need to do what Indian River County has done, which is simply just pay for the improvements that you feel you need.
Thank you, Dylan. Commissioners, any questions or comments for staff? Just a couple, Dylan. In a lot of the state statute under 125.0104, the uses allowed for TDC, if I remember it correctly, those are all listed as funding things that may be eligible for use of tourist tax dollars and are not required to be spent. Is that correct?
So except for the 2 sections I've identified, which we're not allowed to use, but yes, generally the statute is a permissive and not a requirement. So for instance, we don't have to spend money building an aquarium here in Indian River County just because it's listed, provided in the list.
Very good. And then in 87, under the original ordinance, there was a tourist development plan required, and that listed specific projects within the first 24 months. But then the ordinance after that, doesn't it state that basically in the future, the Tourist Development Council will make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on future projects. Is that correct also?
Yeah, and so basically from then on out, after the first 2 years, which were programmed, after that, it's tourist development recommendations and Board of County Commissioners approval.
Okay. And then just a technical question. I think it was back in March where we voted to codify the TDC policy of not accepting applications directly from municipalities.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it was. This was a memo dated March 7th, 2022 from Kristen Daniels, and I believe that was in a meeting in March.
Okay, so just from a legal point of view, I think we voted on it March 15th. So wasn't that the date of the actual final action on this matter by the Board of County Commissioners? And that the TDC was just merely following policy that had been set by the county commission, and that the 20-day window for appeal has expired?
Well, I don't. Well, first off, the idea of appealing something of the Board of County Commissioners' decision like that as a policy decision, that section of our code wouldn't apply. I do agree with you, Commissioner, that yes, the real decision of the Board of County Commissioners to kind of codify the policy that had already been ongoing for years did happen in March, before the Tourist Development Council meeting.
Okay.
And I can confirm that was on March 15th.
March 15th, right, okay. And then finally, I'd just like to state that the policy of not accepting applications from municipalities has not prevented the city of Vero Beach from benefiting from things. I think it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago that the city had just signed up Elite Airways, and they were looking to do a marketing program, and that instead of funding it directly to the city of Vero Beach, the TDC recommended and the Board of County Commissioners approved an additional funding to the Indian River Chamber of Commerce to perform the marketing for the Vero Beach Airport. Is that correct?
That is my recollection. In fact, as identified, and Jason can follow up on this, is identified in Kristen Daniels' memo dated March 7, 2022. It said the determination was made to not accept grant applications from other governmental entities or municipalities and encourage them to collaborate with local tourism groups to bring projects forward. I think that's exactly the type of thing that happened in that scenario, where I believe the chamber worked hand in hand with the airport to do some stuff, but I defer to Jason if he remembers better.
Yes, the chamber did take up the airport study that was being requested by the city, and the TDC and the board decided to award funding to the chamber to accomplish that task that was benefiting the city for the airport.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Fleischer.
I just wanted to add, because Councilor had referred to the May 11th meeting, which you know I have the privilege and honor of presiding over the TDC as the chair, and I just wanted to codify the information that the application from the city of Vero Beach was on the original request. It was explained by staff clearly that it did not come within the allowable disbursement consideration, as it was a municipality, and I understood that, and I believe that all the board members understood that, as there was no discussion. There was no member from the city of Vero Beach present. There was no discussion, no messages, and it was taken off consideration.
Commissioner, if I can, you said there was no member of the city of Vero Beach present? I believe there, I just want to clarify that.
I don't know if there was, I did not see.
No, Mayor Brackett was.
Mayor Brackett
was there.
Was there.
And then Jenny Flanagan, the assistant city attorney, was also present.
Yes.
Perfect. Just want to clarify that.
Yes, the mayor did stop in. I anticipated that we would have a discussion. I anticipated that that would be a request for consideration, as that would be the appropriate arena for that, and most appropriate time for discussion. We did not have any discussion whatsoever Yes, I believe, yes, the mayor was here and then walked out afterwards, and we had no conversation. And we continued on with consideration. They were not the only element of concern, but I was concerned that we did not see it as this request for consideration has been about for several years for the lifeguard station. As many of us may recall, that we saw proposals that were anywhere from $100 to $200 to $300,000 for a lifeguard station, complete with many accoutrements. And we saw it upstairs as well in previous times. And it's gone on for a couple of years. And I think it was rather clear going into the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have someone here from the city who wish to speak, so good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Turner. I'm the city attorney for the city of Vero Beach, referred to by Mr. Dillon Reingold in correspondence with our office regarding this matter. First, I'd like to address the county attorney's memorandum that he has provided regarding the procedural matter. He's arguing that the appeal should have been heard by this body on June 7th. However, under the appeal section, 100.06 does not require such an interpretation. Instead, the code simply states that the appeal must be delivered to the BOCC within 20 working days. And that was done on June 7th. Next, the county attorney argues that the appeal is not proper because the Tourist Development Council's decision was not final. However, a review of the June 7th, 2022 meeting shows that this body adopted the TDC's decision to exclude the city from funding without further discussion. Thus, the TDC's decision to exclude the city from funding was final, as confirmed by this board. As we know, and as county attorneys advise you, there is no appeal from a BOCC decision. It's final. Finally, the county attorney argues that the appeal should have been copied to the Tourist Development Council in his memo, and that therefore it's unable to be considered by this body. However, section 100.06 demonstrates that the Board of County Commissioners is the body responsible for hearing the appeal, and that the appeal was submitted to this body in a timely fashion last Tuesday on June 7th. I'm not going to address the statements made by the county attorney regarding the procedures used by the city council to log the appeal. The issue is city council directed that this appeal be filed on that date, and it was filed, so that it was timely. That's the issue. The issue can be considered, doesn't have to be on the agenda. It does not violate any sunshine laws. If the county attorney has that position, then he knows the appropriate steps to take. But it is clear under Florida law, it does not have to be on the agenda to be considered. It's to be discussed at a public meeting and voted on. Now, regarding the merits of the appeal, which is outlined in the memo provided to each member and the clerk, is that the tourist development tax was adopted by the county in 1987 through ordinance, and it was divided into two subdivisions. Subdivision 1 was the city of Vero Beach. Subdivision 2 was the remainder of the county, and taxes were to be collected in both of those divisions. They have been. When that was adopted and approved, it could not have been approved without the vote of the citizens of the city of Vero Beach. It would not have been approved and adopted. The tourist development tax would not have been implemented but for the citizens of Vero Beach. And in that ordinance, in that enabling ordinance, it outlines that first the county has a plan for tourist development. That's required by the statute. That it created the Tourist Development Council. That it established authorized uses for taxes and called for referendum approval. And also required that the monies be spent pursuant to state statute. Now, the statutory required county plan was approved, and it demonstrates that the voters from this district, District 1, requested and voted on the priorities listed as beach cleaning, dune restoration, revegetation and maintenance, Chamber of Commerce, tourist information, and beach park maintenance. It also required that in all matters that the Indian River County Tourist Development Council shall be governed by compliance with Section 125.0104 of the Florida statutes. So it's from the beginning that Tourist Development Council and this ordinance recognized the requirements and the priorities of spending tourist development dollars on beach maintenance, beach improvements, beach revegetations. This could not have occurred without these representations. Now, over the years, the legislature has changed some of the uses that can be provided for by these funds and used on. They were changed in 2016 and again in 2018. Now, the one in 2016 that the county attorney mentioned was put in the appeal memorandum to demonstrate that state statute recognizes that municipalities are a vital participant and should be considered in tourist development tax matters, because it recognizes and states that municipalities can apply for these funds under certain conditions. No, the city and the county do not meet those conditions at this time, but it's recognized under the statute that municipalities can participate and should participate when they meet those criteria. In fact, under the statute, the Tourist Development Council, there's no authorization for them to exclude municipalities or other governmental entities. The powers of the Tourist Development Council just state that the Tourist Council shall meet at least once each quarter and from time to time shall make recommendations to the county governing board for the effective operation of the special projects or for uses of tourist development tax revenue. There's nothing about excluding municipalities from participation. In fact, we did a survey of how other counties in the area treat municipalities and other governmental agencies. As you probably are aware, there, out of the 67 counties in the state, 63 of them have tourist development tax basis and councils. But nowhere have we found any other county that excludes municipalities or other governmental agencies from participating in using tourist development tax revenue. Indian River County is the only one we could find. For example, in Brevard County has 5 advisory committees related to tourist development taxes. They have a marketing, they have a beach improvement, capital facilities, Sports Committee, and Cultural Committee. Brevard County TDC gives the beach improvement grants for projects that demonstrate a benefit to the health of the Indian River Lagoon and a positive impact to Brevard County tourism. The requirement for these grants are that the recipient be a governmental entity or an academic institution. So under Brevard County, some of their TDC funds, it's required to go to governmental agencies. We think that's smart. We think that's partnering with your municipalities and recognizing, identifying projects that benefit tourism and the residents. Also, Lee County touts the benefits of the tourist development tax dollars and partnering with municipalities and governmental agencies in completing important public beach park improvements. For example, they have given the city of Cape Coral, which is in Lee County, $370,000 for its yacht club beach restrooms. And to the city of Sanibel for Bowman's Beach Park kayak and improvements. Another example is Okaloosa County. It funds its Beach Safety Life-Saving Program, funding of beach lifeguards through its TDT for Destin and Fort Walton beaches. Several of the counties use the proceeds through governmental agencies in hiring, paying for, and allowing for lifeguards to have lifeguard facilities on beaches. Collier County allows grant funding for governmental agency in its application for grant funding purposes. Broward County states that it periodically receives requests for financial assistance from local municipalities to support capital projects using proceeds from the tax. It states to be eligible that the public entity must be located primarily in Broward County, and that is can be municipality or state government agency or political subdivisions of the state government, or even a sovereign Native American nation can apply. Hillsborough County is another one. They solicit projects from all governmental entities in Tampa, Hillsborough County. That's what we're asking for. We're not here to file a lawsuit. We're here to seek your partnership and participation in these projects because they're important. They're important to the city and they're important to the county. I think the memo and of the appeal really pinpoints the importance of having the city of Vero Beach participation in this endeavor, and the amount of money that's contributed from the city of Vero Beach. And its position now is that they are not receiving anything in return. They're not recognized for what they do in their participation. Yes, they filed an application a couple of years ago for the airport. It was denied. There also was an application for the centennial celebration of City of Vero Beach. It was also denied.
Yep.
The meetings involving this policy, and I was unable to find that this policy was adopted by any resolution or an ordinance. I think it was just adopted as a policy. It is true that the city was encouraged to file the application. It was said, okay, if you want to seek funds for your lifeguard system or its project at Humiston Beach at the park, file the application. Here's the application. It has to be in on or before May 1. All of those things were met. The application was prepared. Nobody said, well, we can't consider you're a governmental entity. Why would we do that if it was not going to be considered? Why would we have a grant writer assist us in doing that? Why would we spend that money? No, we didn't have any notice that you cannot even file it. It will not be considered. That's the basis for this whole request, is that we were never told, we were never advised that this was going to be considered and this action was going to be taken. We thought we were trying to partner with the county in spending these monies judiciously and for important tourist projects. We submit in our memorandum on this appeal that, that the not considering the request is really contrary to the referendum that was approved in 1987. It goes against the whole spirit and purpose of that. And as the state became more sophisticated in the use, and the counties did, of tourist development dollars, then the uses were expanded and approved. And you have to comply with those uses or you won't get the money. You can't use the money. We feel that it just is almost arbitrary that your statements that just won't be considered, it has no basis. What's the reason? Every other county allows it. Indian River County arbitrarily, it seems to be, capriciously, oh, we're not going to allow it. Well, I think you should allow it, and you should have these discussions with all the municipalities in the county. They would be interested in participating, I'm sure. Why can't we reach out to the other cities? Why can't we work closely with City of Vero Beach? So really, in conclusion, we're asking that, one, that you accept the application, and two, that you change your policy, that you make it more in conformity with all the other counties in the state, that you invite the other municipalities to come in and work on tourist development projects to help everyone out. That's what we're asking for. We're not here to file a lawsuit. We're not going to file any litigation at this point. There are other options we can take. Hopefully it's going to be partnering with the county. That's what we're looking for. Thank you for your time. I know I've probably gone a little longer than you expected, but I do appreciate your courtesy. And we try to extend the same courtesies to you and your staff when they appear with us. We don't try to lecture anybody. We try to work with them. Again, thank you. If you have any questions, if I can answer, I'll be glad to. Otherwise, I'll sit down and...
Thank you, Mr. Turner. And we do appreciate you coming here this morning. And obviously, we were glad to hear your position. I think Mr. Brown has a comment.
Yeah, you know, I'm glad to hear that Mr. Turner's talking about partnership and not suing the county. I do see the court reporter here, which makes me a little concerned about that, and I heard not at this time, something to that effect. I do want to point out that that the county does do a lot of things that are that benefit the city or the municipalities. One example that I think Mr. Turner used was Lee County, where they cooperated on beach improvements of some sort. I mean, I would say that our beach renourishment activities in Sector 5, which is basically almost all within the city limits of Vero, that which isn't within the limits of the town of Indian River Shores, a very small portion, did a $5+ million project on that recently. The county takes that on and manages that. If the city would prefer the city to manage such projects, I think a $5+ million beach renourishment project is a lot more valuable than a $400,000 lifeguard stand. I am concerned about what I see as an attempt to utilize the tourist tax dollars for government infrastructure that I think should be paid for in other ways. So if we were to entertain projects like the city has requested for the lifeguard tower, I will point out in the current year, the county purchased a $98,000 lifeguard tower, or in the process of purchasing a $98,000 lifeguard tower for Round Island Park. I think it would only be fair that the county would receive consideration for our similar projects. I'll note we've spent probably about $2 million on projects on infrastructure that would be in Mr. Turner's terms eligible for the expenditure of tourist tax dollars. I don't believe that just because it's something that's eligible for tourist tax dollars, we should do that. We've got various things such as museums that are required that we're required to build at various conservation lands that we could use as a legal use of tourist tax dollars. So if we're going to start considering those types of things, they should be considered for county projects as well. My worry about that is the dollars we're talking about is the portion of the tourist tax we use for tourism promotion. And I think the goal has been heads on beds, trying to promote tourism. And if we start funding infrastructure, whether it's for the county or all of our municipalities, I suppose, I think we're going to end up in a situation where we're not going to have funds to do the tourism promotion that we need to do. So I think that's a policy matter. I'm kind of puzzled why we have the city attorney here when we're not talking about suing and we're talking about what I believe are policy decisions, whether we should do something, whether the Board of County Commissioners should make a policy decision. I don't think that this is a legal issue. I can't imagine a judge telling the county commission that they're going to usurp a county commission policy decision and we have to fund a certain infrastructure project or something. That seems like not a legal question, that seems like a policy question. So I think it's odd that we've got the attorney here and a court reporter on something that I really believe is purely a policy discussion as far as the setting aside the procedure issues is a policy discussion for the board. And I'm just worried that we don't want to go down this road because we're going to find lots of ways to spend this tourist tax dollars on something other than tourism promotion, and these are the dollars that we're talking about here. We do use a significant portion of the tourist tax dollars for beach renourishment. That's the other penny and 1 5/6 of a penny. And I think if we start using this portion of the funds for lifeguard towers and dune crossovers and museums, that may be something that we want to do, but I think we need to be careful about our tourism promotion efforts going forward should we decide to make those funding decisions. So that's just more from a policy standpoint. I wanted to mention those. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. I would concur with that. Actually, in the memo from the city, under the first section under the background, it does say that the Florida statutes allow counties to collect the tourist tax to be used in various ways to promote tourism. And so I think that's what our Indian River County Chamber and other partners with the TDC funds are focused on. I agree. I don't think we want the TDC dollars to be used to supplement other capital projects from the municipalities. I will say that this lifeguard tower has been around for 3 or 4 years now, and it's always been promoted by the city as a very important public safety project. So I would suggest that the city fund this public safety project just like they do other public safety projects, either through their general fund, or I think even the most appropriate avenue would be to use the 1 cent sales tax that they collect. A lifeguard tower would be a very appropriate use of that sales tax money, and also all of the tourists that come, they're buying things, they're paying sales tax, so the funding would be coming directly from those who benefit from it. And I find it ironic that for the last 3 years, the city of Vero Beach has funded money in their budget for the lifeguard tower. In the 1920 fiscal year, they had $250,000. In the 2021 fiscal year, they had the same $250,000. Now, keep in mind, this is a high priority public safety project that they have funded but have failed to build the public safety project. And in 21-22, they have $120,000 in their budget for the lifeguard tower. I think that the city should use their sales tax to build capital improvements, and that we use TDC dollars to bring beds on heads. And I will point out, Mr. Turner said that the city feels like they're not getting anything for the monies collected. I think I'll just point out, I think what I hear around town during season is the complaints about the long wait at restaurants because there's so many tourists here, that there's no parking because there's so many tourists here, and that the hotel room rates are very high because of the high demand of the tourists coming to Indian River County and Vero Beach. I think the city is getting more than they can even handle through tourism, and so I don't see where we're failing the city in any way as far as bringing beds on heads. And as Jason said, not only the millions we spend in Sector 5 for beach renourishment, but the millions we spend in Sector 3 and other areas up current of the city of Vero Beach, that sand eventually drifts down and benefits a lot of the city of Vero Beach area. So I support the policy decision we made. I don't think that 125.0104, other than this 2016 and 2018 amendments that we are not eligible for, I don't believe anywhere in there it says that we have to give municipalities money. And just because other counties do it, I don't think this commission, the years I've been here, we've ever given a whole lot of weight to what other counties are doing. We do what we believe is best for Indian River County. And in my opinion, continuing the practice that we have done is what's best for Vero Beach and Indian River County going forward. So, any commissioners, any other comments?
Yes.
Mr. Adams?
Yes. Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Moss.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Adams and Mr. Chair. I would like to see the county and the city work more closely together on this. The city did not come before us today asking for our direction with regard to how they spend their budget. They came before us to ask to be a partner. And I think that that's a good request and a fair request, and we should honor that request and perhaps have a public meeting of the two elected bodies to discuss this very openly and in detail, which we're really not prepared to do today. But I will say that the Florida statute stands on its own, and that's 125.0104, which for a very long time has allowed for the funding of beach park facilities and more recently allows municipalities to apply for funding for that and other things. And in addition, I think there's one fact that we're tending to overlook. This is not a beach popularity contest. The fact of the matter is, and this has always been the case since the inception of the tourist tax, is that there are two taxing districts. And for those who don't know, District 1 is simply the city of Vero Beach, nothing further. And District 2 is the rest of the county. And District 1 provides roughly half of all tourist tax dollars and has for a very, very long time. So I think it's very reasonable to attempt to be a good partner with them in whatever way we can. And thank you for this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams.
Yes, thank you. Just to follow up on a couple of comments that have been made here today. If the city intended this to be a collaborative effort, then there would be city council members here, there would be a city manager here. It would not solely be the litigation arm of the city, which is the city attorney. I can't recall the last time we had a court reporter at our meeting, but it's generally not to set a tone of collaboration. It's generally to set a tone of litigation, which is the exact opposite of working together and collaborating. And you're correct, Commissioner Moss. They did not come here to get direction on how to spend their budget. They came here to tell us how to spend ours. So again, that's not really collaborating. It's been mentioned that the Centennial Celebration was not funded. That is correct. It was not funded through TDC. It was funded through other county sources. The county did contribute what was asked of them to the Vero Beach Centennial Celebration. Not only did we contribute dollars, but we also contributed resources to help them in the multiple year of that celebration. And we were happy to do that. A question I have for staff is, can the city of Vero Beach perform beach renourishment?
I believe there's an aspect of the charter that has a limitation that requires a referendum. I would be happy to pull up this specific language.
So the city of Vero Beach, on their own, cannot perform beach renourishment of their beaches. In order to maintain the integrity of their beaches, which is something that we all agree is a draw for tourism, we have to collaborate and work together to put that sand on the city of Vero Beach's beaches, because there is a mechanism within their charter that precludes them from doing that in an efficient manner. That is something that we have done over the years and will continue to do, because again, it's something that we see as important. It's a large portion of the TDC budget that goes to beach renourishment. Renourishment of all of our beaches within the entirety of the county, including the city of Vero Beach, which I would argue does not help the city of Sebastian or the city of Fellsmere, which does not have any beach frontage. Secondly, I believe a portion of the TDC budget also goes to Dodgertown. Is that correct?
Half a penny.
Where is Dodgertown located?
In the city of Vero Beach.
So again, we now have part of TDC dollars going to beach renourishment within the city of Vero Beach that does not benefit the city of Sebastian or the city of Fellsmere. We have a portion of TDC dollars going to Dodgertown located within the city of Vero Beach, which does not benefit the city of Sebastian or the city of Fellsmere. So truly, the only portion of the TDC budget that is all inclusive of the entirety of the county would be the marketing arm of that TDC budget. And just to kind of go over what marketing is, and I'm sure everybody's aware, but I'm going to hit on it anyway. Marketing is creating a plan, an overall encompassing plan to build a brand and attract visitors or market your area. For us, that is attracting visitors. We are attracting visitors to Indian River County. Where they stay when they come, I do not care. All I care is that they are coming and choosing to come to Indian River County to partake in what we have to offer here. We have beautiful beaches, but we also have beautiful birding opportunities, beautiful hiking opportunities, ecotourism. We have museums. We have historical tourism that goes on. We have cultural tourism that goes on. Any number of things. And in order to build and bring that, you have to have a comprehensive plan year over year, working with multiple people amongst the community to do that. That amount of dollars that are set aside for marketing is very minimal when you look at the rest of TDC and where those monies are spent on infrastructure related to beach renourishment and Dodgertown. So I think that it is a misnomer to say that the city of Vero Beach, the county is not collaborating with the city of Vero Beach. This whole attack on TDC from the city of Vero Beach has been going on since 2017. So again, for them to say that they were unaware of any of this when they have had representatives at every meeting, every TDC meeting, is untruthful, and it's petty, and it defeats the purpose of building collaborative efforts. I really don't understand what the end hope is here. Last I checked Florida statutes, TDC falls under county approved tax levies. It does not, it's not a tax or a levy, I'm sorry, it's not a funding mechanism that can be levied by municipalities. It can only be levied by counties, and thus it is only the county that can determine how those monies are spent. The last thing I'll say is just because, the same thing my mom always said, just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean you need to do it too. If they jump off a bridge, are you going to jump off a bridge? No, I am not. Because I'm going to look at what I need to do and what is best for my county. There's a lot of things that other counties do that I don't think would be appropriate for Indian River County. Some counties don't even have municipal representation on their TDC funding boards. Some counties have other agencies, or they have other, as Mr. Turner pointed out, different multiple committees. Some counties have convention and visitors bureaus. We don't. We have what we have after years and years and years of working together, and I find it just disappointing that instead of wanting to work together, we continue to have this adversarial relationship brought about by the city of Vero Beach, not just on this issue, but other issues. So, you know, to sum it up, I support this policy and where we are. The city of Vero Beach was well aware of it. The decision has been made as far as I'm concerned, and I guess we'll see where the city of Vero Beach wants to take it.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Vice Chair Urban.
Thank you. Commissioner Adams very well put with regards to that. I also support the policy, but yet I don't have a tremendous amount of heartburn saying, you know, if the cities wanted to apply, they could, but I have to go back to what our county administrator said. There's only so much money to go around. And tourist development money to me is for tourist development, exactly as it says. It's develop tourists to make tourism come to the county and put heads on beds. There's not a whole lot of money after you do beach renourishment and you promote tourist development left for infrastructure. And to me, again, not to be redundant, but I just don't feel that that is money that should be used for infrastructure with regards to facilities in the cities or counties. I mean, with that being said, then I would ask, you know, our county administrator, let's use tourist development money and let's put a sub-fire station or sub-sheriff station on the beach or something. And let's build it with that money. That's not what that's for. That money is to be used for tourist development. While I recognize the city of Vero Beach is a big player in tourist development because a lot of the hotels and stuff are in the city of Vero Beach, and they do a good portion of it, it's exactly as Commissioner Adams said. It's a county tax. The county levies the tax, the county's in charge of the tax, and the county sees what to do with the tax. And again, it's for tourist development. While I don't have a lot of heartburn for allowing cities and municipalities to apply, I can tell you what I'm not going to do as a commissioner. I'm not going to take any money away from our Chamber of Commerce, Sebastian, Indian River, and I'm certainly not going to take money away from the used to be the Treasure Coast Sports Commission. It was Play. It's called Play Treasure Coast Sports, because all three of these agencies work their butt off to promote tourism in this county, and that is just so important. There's nobody that works harder than those three groups. While I may question some of the others we give money to, there's just not a whole lot left there for infrastructure and things to be built with that money. And again, I don't think that was ever the intention of the state legislature. But when you have such as museums, aquariums, and things like that, those are tourist destinations. They bring tourists, and those are very important. As the liaison for the county commission to the beach renourishment, beach and shore preservation committee, I can tell you that that's another group that worked their butt off to make sure that the money is spent accordingly and placed on the county beaches where it's so important, along with our public works staff who devotes the majority of their time to do that. Those are so important. I just don't see where the funding is left to promote or provide for infrastructure anyway, as much as even referenced in the city's memo to us that money can be used for lagoon improvements. That would be wonderful. There's just not enough money left to make a difference there for that type of thing. And because the priority should be tourist development as it is. I too have a real problem with this. I feel it's everything's hinting at litigation to the county, and I remember in a recent article by Mr. Reisman in the Press Journal that a lot of politicians talk about working together with the city and county, working interjurisdictional to solve problems. Nobody wants that as more as I do. Vero Beach is my hometown. I grew up here, and nobody wants that any more than I do, to work together on issues to make this county better. But it sure makes it hard to where everything that we do that we're getting looked at. And again, like was said by my colleagues, that we have a court reporter who I know very well, by the way. By the way, we went to high school together.
Who didn't you go to high school with?
Imagine that. I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. But finding that in here, that points to litigation to me, and frankly, I can tell the city of Vero Beach, I don't appreciate that. Let's, why hasn't the city manager been in Jason Brown's office or invited Jason over to his office and say, hey, let's talk about this. What can we do? Or vice versa. No, it all comes in a formal letter of an appeal, and then we have as Commissioner Adams said, the litigation side of the city of Vero Beach here. We don't have any council members or don't have any city manager here to talk about this. Those are just a few of my points on this. I'm good with the policy as is, but I wouldn't have a lot of heartburn for the cities to apply. But I'm not prepared to change that policy at this time. Maybe in the future. But I just don't see where it benefits tourist development to basically build a lifeguard stand. I'll be honest with you, to build a nice lifeguard office. They probably need it, probably way overdue, but that's not something we would do here. We would fund it. We need a new fire station. We need to do something like that. We do it. We don't use tourist development money to do those type of things. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, right now.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Commissioner Fletcher, did you have anything to add, or?
Just, Vice Chairman Ehrman, you mentioned that nothing was said, and that was my original statement regarding the TDC meeting. That was the opportunity. And if it was in the spirit of cooperation or a spirit of understanding or municipal mutual aid to get something accomplished for tourism, I believe that, yes, one of the council members or the mayor who was present but did not participate in the meeting could have, at that point, made a statement. It would have been well received. I don't know if the outcome would have been what was requested. I don't know if the outcome would be any different. All I'm stating is that there was no motion to move anything forward to appeal at that point, to discuss, to say, how come this was taken off the list? It was taken off the list, and it was done. And there was no further discussion. And I wholeheartedly agree with you when you have the attorney before us and you have a court reporter before us. I didn't go to school with her, but then you did. this is being covered for some other specific consideration, that's to be determined, and we'll stay seated. And I think we have to stay where we are with this at this time, as the understanding for what the TDC obligation was, and for the promotion, for the marketing of tourism. By the way, I believe that we are doing far better than some of, or many of those other jurisdictions who are probably spending their money in different directions. But our funding is going into marketing, and it's happening. And we are having an overwhelming response, despite the lack of a lifeguard station in the city of Vero Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Smith, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like it on the record that I did not go to high school with Commissioner Ehrman.
Okay.
I just want to put it on the record that we go through the TDC request for reimbursement really well. My internal auditor goes through it with a fine-tooth comb, and we make sure that everything that is spent for the right reason and is justified, unlike some counties that have had fraud occur in their TDC, namely Okaloosa, and to the extent where the clerk had to resign, the internal auditor had to resign, the TDC director committed suicide because he was the person committing the fraud. So I can assure you and the public that we go through each request from the chamber and for everything else that we spend on from TDC funds with a fine-tooth comb, and make sure that it's legal and for the purpose.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else from the public wish to speak?
And Chair, if I may, 2 points as the gentleman comes down. First, I was asked a question about the City of Vero Beach Charter. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I do want to make sure I'm being very specific. Section 2.09, referendum required, states unless specifically authorized to do so by one or more local binding referendum elections, the City of Vero Beach shall not, on beaches owned by or within the municipal limits of the City of Vero Beach, directly or indirectly expend tax dollars from whatever source, local, state, or federal, on beach restoration that involves the direct or indirect placement of sand on the beach, except in the amount necessary to protect life or property during storms or other natural disaster. I just want to make sure it was clear. Additionally, I know there's a court reporter here, so I just want to be very accurate. We oftentimes use the letters TDC when talking about something. I just want to make it very clear on the record that Tourist Development Council is a recommendation board with all decisions that have been recommended by TDC being made finally by the Board of County Commissioners. And with that, I'd be delighted to turn it over to the council member.
Dylan, I got Jason one thing.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. All apologies, Mr. McPartland. I do just want to make one point. You know, the city attorney mentioned something about collaboration. There have been numerous discussions over the last couple of years where the city has implied that what the county is doing is improper with the tourist tax dollars. It's phrased in a way that it's not consistent with Florida statutes, which is a good legal way to not really say the county's doing something wrong, but give the listener the impression that the county's doing something wrong that we should not be doing. That's no way to start a collaboration, and I think if there were ever to be any such discussions, then I think that would need to be clarified as a prerequisite to that the city is not alleging that the county is doing anything illegal or improper with the tourist tax dollars, because again, that's not a helpful environment to collaboration.
Thank you. We're privileged this morning to have Sebastian City Council Member Bob McPartland here. Good morning and welcome.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, Commission. And that's Bob McPartland, no D on the end of that, since there's a court report. and you know, it's interesting. You know, I get to go to a lot of government meetings throughout not only the county, but the Treasure Coast and Okeechobee, and I'm very familiar. In Indian River, we do things very differently here. You know, I can say that. You know, being an elected official for over 10 years. You know, I'm not a rich man by no means, but I am very blessed. And, you know, living in this county and being an elected official for the city of Sebastian for the past 10 years, I think I'm spoiled. And I think part of that, you know, is because of my role with the Department of Children and Families. I get a lot of face time with all of you for several years. I've served on several boards with all of you. Mr. Ehrman, you're new in your role, but we sit on the Transportation Disadvantage Board and building a relationship there with Miss Moss from when she was on the city of Vero Beach. She's been on the MPO. I've been on the MPO for 10 years, and I think that's a board where we all meet for the past 10 years. I mean, Susan, we've been on that board from when you were the mayor of Fellsmere. So I know you, and I'll call you guys, or we're at a meeting, we'll be discussing those issues. The tourist development, you know, this is a hot button issue. You know, I've heard a lot of the things. It brings up a good point. You know, maybe we need to have the municipalities and the counties sit down, maybe have a workshop where we all sit together and we write down what's our list, or what's the stupid rules that the county has that we have our disagreements about, that we could sit down in a public meeting and talk about them. Maybe we can hash them out. We have more in common than we argue about. I mean, at least 70% of the stuff we can get accomplished. Why can't we do that? Why does it have to come down to that? You know, we had the argument, the city of Sebastian with the county, over the fire marshal. We did, but we got through it. I mean, I never had, you know, I've had arguments with you guys, but I've continued to be able to work with you. I mean, I've called Jason up. I've called Jason up after hours and on the weekend, and he's always answered my calls. Sometimes he'll say, why didn't you call Mike Zito? I'm like, I'd rather call you, Jason, because you're the one that's got the answer. But he always does, you know? Susan always answers my calls. Peter, you're always, you know? And me and Susan always agree. I don't think we've ever disagreed. Peter, very rare where we've had an argument. I mean, we've sat on the Children's Service Advisory Committee until now Laura's on there. You know, all these years. Joe used to be on juvenile justice. Laura's taken over for there. And she's trying to, you know. So I've had a lot of FaceTime. We have a lot in common. But I think a lot of elected officials that get on for their community, they don't have an understanding on all these other little boards that are out there. And there's a lot of misinformation, and they don't know. And so they don't get that FaceTime. So I think a workshop would be beneficial for everybody to sit down, get an understanding, get to meet each other, know everybody, know they could pick up the phone and talk to each other. I don't understand what the problem is. So maybe that's something we can look at. We can name it the Peter O'Brien Breakfast in your honor. How about that?
And Sebastian's going to pick up the tab, is that?
Quite possibly, you know, and while I'm here is that, you know, I know we've had the problems, you know, we had that proposed annexation that's coming up. You know, I voted for it in the past. I'd like to see it happen. I have questions, and I've asked about questions. And we have 2 proposed annexation workshops that are coming. One is this coming Thursday at 6 to 7:30. I'd like to see some of you guys there. I will be there, you know, and if Jason or some staff can send, because I value your opinion. I mean, you know, like I've said, Phil Matson, great guy. He's the one who made transportation fun for me. You know, nobody, you know, explains things better than Phil. So, but I appreciate everything you've done. And, you know, I was here 2 weeks, last week for when the awards for the tourist development money went. And I was listening to the county administrator. And it's going to be a tough year for him with the money. And I really appreciate everything that he does. He is my county administrator, and he does a fantastic job. And I want people to know he's in a very difficult position with this money. And, you know, he said he was grumpy last week, and he wasn't grumpy. He's watching that money, and I'm glad he's watching the money. And I hope everybody else that's out there appreciates him watching that money, because he does a fantastic job. So, thank you.
Hey, Bob, just a quick thing. I think you just mentioned that your workshop Thursday from 6 to 7:30. I thought it started at 5:30. Is that?
5:30? I was supposed to be in Tallahassee.
You're gonna be late.
My meeting got canceled, so I will be there.
Okay, I think it's 5:30 is the notice I got, so I just wanted to clarify that. But
And I'll give you that $20 I owe you. Joke.
It's 5:30.
good morning, Mr. Paladin.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, commissioners. I support everything that our county administrator, Jason Brown, said, and our county attorney said. Commissioner Adams, I would if I said any more, I'd just be reiterating what you said. And Commissioner Ehrman, same way, Fletcher, and Commissioner O'Brien. Now, listen, I'm speaking. I'm chairman of the Land Use Committee of the IRNA. I'm also vice president of the executive board. And I'm president of Black Swan Consulting and Entitlement, and I've been a businessman in this county for decades. And let me make this statement. I'm glad that Mr. Turner was up here saying he doesn't want to go into litigation, but any time in all the years I've been in business, I send my attorney to the podium and I have a court reporter in the audience. Gentlemen, ladies, litigation's on my mind. And it certainly sets the atmosphere for that. So I think that was a bad move on the city, and I support what all you people said up here, and I'm behind you 100% in my position. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Pallin. Anyone else wish to speak? Good morning.
Good morning. Wilford Harwood School District, and I was listening to the City Council from Sebastian, and if you are going to decided to get all the municipalities together, keep the school district in mind, because this tourism affects our school district. See, I had the opportunity to travel, to recruit teachers, and this is a great selling point for us as we go around the different states here in the United States, telling folks about the beauty of Indian River County. And so if you're planning on getting together, please invite the school district. That's why I'm standing up here today, because we are a major player for everything that you guys do. Thank you.
And I'm sure Sebastian won't mind picking up the tab for your breakfast as well. That'll be fine, yeah. Anyone else? So Dylan, did we need formal action on this, or is this just informational and discussion?
Informational discussion. I will send a response to the city explaining that the request there was no jurisdiction for the appeal request pursuant to 100.06 of our code.
Okay. Commissioners, we're past our break time. The last three items I think should go real quick. Can everybody hang in there and we'll finish off the agenda? All right, so we put on our special district hats, the Solid Waste Disposal District. The first item, final pay to Geosyntec for work order number 12. 1 year groundwater monitoring for the former South Gifford Road landfill. I would call this one the Solari memo, because this was always Commissioner Solari's big.
Mr. Chair, move approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Fletcher, second by Commissioner Adams. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
That was a support. Is that correct, Commissioner Moss?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. It just came in a little late. I wasn't sure. So that passes 5-0. Second item is request by Waste Management to modify the franchise agreement. Jason, you want to cover this, or Himanshu?
I think Himanshu is better equipped to do so, so I'll defer to him.
Good morning, Commissioners. Himanshu Mehta, Managing Director for the Solid Waste Disposal District. We received a letter from Waste Management related to the C&D roll-off containers. C&D stands for Construction and Demolition Debris Containers. In our current franchise agreement, we basically have what's called an exclusive and a non-exclusive C&D franchise. And Waste Management basically has the exclusive franchise currently for collecting C&D and containers greater than 15 and greater cubic yard containers. And we have a lot of small businesses in the county that provide the same service for containers less than 15 cubic yards. And what Waste Management has requested is to basically modify the franchise agreement to remove that exclusivity that's been given to Waste Management. It will require a modification of the franchise agreement. It will require a modification to the county ordinance. We'll do that through, duly noticed public hearing process and bring those items back to you for approval at a later time. We just wanted to get direction on this. In terms of what does the exclusivity, non-exclusivity, what does that entail? It's really the differences when it comes to the landfill. When Waste Management comes in, they pay $30 a ton for disposal of that material, and the small businesses currently pay $31.80 per ton. And by removing this, Waste Management, instead of sending us a franchise check every month, they will no longer do that. We'll collect the franchise fee on the tip rate. Their tip rate will go from $30 to $31.80 a ton, and that franchise fee is on a daily basis transferred to Indian River County. So that's kind of the change, if you will, in terms of a financial impact. Staff supports the decision, or request by Waste Management to remove the C&D exclusivity, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff? Commissioners, your pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a move to approve.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Ehrman, second by Commissioner Adams. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. And the third item is a work order, number 16, to Geosyntec for 1 year of groundwater monitoring related to the former South Gifford Road landfill. And again, Commissioner Slaughter would be spouting about the never-ending monitoring, but I believe I heard Commissioner Adams, followed by a second by Commissioner Flesher. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify with aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Commissioners, with that, there not being anything else for the good of the community, we stand adjourned. Yeah, now we